Good, you're back. Today's video is about Ohio versus North Carolina, the birthplace of aviation versus first in flight. Quick disclaimer, I wasn't born in either of these states. I'm not one of the Wright Brothers' long-lost heirs. I'm just trying to get the scoop on the swoop. The word on the bird. The noise on the boys. I'm not perfect, and thus, I will probably say some wrongs about the Wrights. If you know something I don't, or just want to add something to what I said, then please leave a comment. While you're at it, leave a like if you enjoyed, ring the bell to be notified about new videos, and subscribe for more content. Let's get into it. First, a little history. It's important to note that Orville and Wilbur were not the first people to dream of or even accomplish air travel. There were many successful attempts to traverse the skies before they did, and many more unsuccessful. Here are a few notable examples that show up in the history of the aircraft. Get your fingers ready for typing because there are mispronunciations aplenty coming up. In the 11th century, Eimer of Malmesbury supposedly invented some sort of device that was meant to give him the ability to fly, glide, or fall more gracefully, or something. I don't know, the description given by his friend was kind of vague. It goes like this. Eimer was a man learned for those times, of ripe old age, and in his early youth had hazarded a deed of remarkable boldness. He had by some means, I scarcely know what, fastened wings to his hands and feet, so that, mistaking fable for truth, he might fly like Daedalus, and, collecting the breeze upon the summit of a tower, flew for more than a furlong. But, agitated by the violence of the wind and the swirling of air, as well as by the awareness of his rash attempt, he fell, broke both his legs, and was lame ever after. I guess he got his ancient Greek legends confused because his flight path looked a lot closer to that of Icarus than Daedalus. But I think that's what you get for going straight for the tower instead of like, I don't know, a small hill or a veranda or something. Anyway, here's a picture of a contraption that Leonardo da Vinci came up with in 1485. He never actually made it, though. In 1783, Joseph and Jacques Montgolfier invented the first hot air balloon. This one actually worked, but even if it hadn't, they at least had the foresight to load it full of farm animals before they tried it themselves. After that, there were several successful types of gliders, a few of which were powered by pedaling. Others worked more like flying squirrel suits, just find a high place and jump off. So you see, there were many attempts preceding the Wright brothers to get off the ground. But now we'll get into their story and why their methods were better than previous ones. Orville and Wilbur Wright were raised in Dayton, Ohio, and stayed there well into their 30s. During their childhood years, their father was a member of the clergy, which required him to travel a lot. It was on his return from one of his trips that he brought his kids back a model helicopter, designed by Alphonse Pénaud, a French engineer. The toy's rubber band-powered blades actually allowed it to fly across the room until it bumped against the ceiling, where it finally fell to the ground. This left quite an impression on them. Orville himself even credited this model with sparking their interest in flight. Soon after, they both dropped out of high school. Wilbur, due to depression from getting yammed in the face with a hockey stick, and Orville, just because he felt like it. Wilbur was older, so I guess once he did it first and got away with it, Orville was just like, see ya. Orville got into the printing business, working as an editor for a local newspaper. He was later joined by his brother, and they started their own rival newspaper, the Evening Item. Unfortunately, they didn't have the capital or the manpower to outsell the existing newspapers, and they started seeking other business opportunities. In 1894, they opened up a bicycle repair shop, and within 2 years, they were successfully manufacturing and selling their own bikes. But by that time, they had already had their minds on higher goals. They began theorizing about flight, testing here and there with kites, and eventually decided to pack it up and move their operation to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Finally, in 1903, mere weeks after the New York Times itself released an article claiming that to build a flying machine would require the combined and continuous efforts of mathematicians and mechanics 1 million to 10 million years, Wilbur perfected his invention of a mechanism that would allow him to steer his aircraft. Previously, attempts to steer an aircraft were done with a rudder, the way a boat might be steered. Wilbur, after studying the movements of birds' wings, came to understand that turning, ascending, and descending would rely on the movement of the wings themselves. This was their success. The ability to yaw, pitch, and roll at will, to change height and direction, was the reason Orville and Wilbur became the legends they are today. They were the first to cross that threshold. Although there was a man named Robert Langley who wasn't too far behind them. Langley had designed a successful glider in the past, and was at that time trying to modify it to be steerable. But after 2 disastrous attempts, he threw in the towel and the Wright brothers took home the gold. That's all well and good. But the point of this video is the controversy between Ohio and North Carolina. Here's where the battle starts. The Wright brothers did in fact build their first successful flyer that was both steam-powered and steerable in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Thus, the first in flight that appears on NC license plates. But Ohio claims that since they were born there, they should get the credit. Enter birthplace of aviation. Now they have a few more ways of trying to support their title, such as having produced the most astronauts, the National Museum of the United States Air Force, and the first person to fly around the entire Earth. But all of these things happened after the Wright Brothers era. And the funny thing about their original claim is that Wilbur wasn't even born in Ohio. Sure, he was raised there, but only Orville was actually born there. Wilbur Wright was born in Millville, Indiana. In fact, due to the nature of their father's job, and the fact that he was also born in Indiana, the Wright brothers thought of it as a second home, moving back and forth between Millville and Dayton for the first 10 years of their life. And Ohio had the gumption to come out and say that they're the birthplace of aviation? Yeah, you know what they're the birthplace of? Not Wilbur. And that's not all. By all accounts, despite the fact that the brothers shared the fame and the credit equally, it was Wilbur who was the brains behind the project, especially when it came to public relations. If that's not enough, they left Ohio for North Carolina because Kitty Hawk was notorious for strong winds, which were necessary for the tests they needed to run. The only way they could succeed was by leaving Ohio. Then I come to find out that Indiana has actually made similar claims to that of Ohio, being Wilbur's birthplace, as well as frequently visited and occasionally lived in by both of the Wright brothers. But that idea got shot down in part by Ohio, and they don't see the irony in that? They basically had the same claim. And last but not least, last year, in 2021, Ohio printed new license plates featuring a beautiful plane flying across the sky, proudly waving a banner saying, "Birthplace of Aviation." Notice anything wrong? That's right. They printed 35,000 license plates before someone finally realized that either the plane was flying backwards or the banner was defying the laws of physics. Either way, it shouldn't have been attached to the front. I know this was a simple mistake, like a three-legged buffalo on a nickel or a misspelled word on a Pokemon card. It could have happened to anyone. But it's still hilarious to me that the self-proclaimed birthplace of aviation would make that particular mistake. I'm sorry, Ohioans, but I have to take North Carolina's side on this one. But hey, you still have golf balls and Neil Armstrong. Indiana, you can just keep doing whatever it is you were doing. Let me know in the comments section which state you think has the superior claim. So I didn't include anything about the Wright brothers after their initial flight in North Carolina, but I found a great timeline of their success story on the Library of Congress website. I'll leave links to that and my other sources in the description. I learned a lot of interesting obscure facts during my research for this video, but the one that stuck with me the most is this. At the risk of sounding like the climax to a Disney character's monologue, no matter what the New York Times or anyone else says, don't give up on your dreams. If you found this video interesting, leave a like, ring the bell to learn with me, subscribe for more content, and comment what you want to learn about next. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.